had this interview with Virginia Roberts, we would not put it on the air. First of all, I was told, who's Jeffrey Epstein? No one knows who that is. This is a stupid story. Then the palace found out that we had hurtful allegations about Prince Andrew and threatened us a million different ways. It was unbelievable what we had. Clinton, we had everything. I tried for 3 years to get it on, to no avail, and now it's all coming out, and it's like these new revelations, and I freaking had all of it. I'm so pissed right now. So do I think he was killed? 100%. Yes, I do. Because he made his whole living blackmailing people.
Roebuck's mention of Clinton is interesting. Just last month, reporter Ronan Farrow alleged Clinton associates helped squash that reporting on Harvey Weinstein at NBC. Joining me now, Donald Trump Jr., Executive Vice President of the Trump Organization and author of the brand new book, Triggered: How the Left Thrives on Hate and Wants to Silence Us. It just came out. All right, Donnie, networks like ABC, well, of course, they saw fit to print every wild accusation against Kavanaugh.
It's ABC, you had NBC with the Matt Lauer stuff, no one knew. Do you think they would have quashed that story if it was Donald Trump instead of Bill Clinton, Laura? I'm wondering if their same journalistic standards that allowed them to peddle the BS dossier and the Mueller hoax as though it was gospel, in fact, for 3 years. I wonder if those same journalistic standards were in place then for this one. Give me a break.
Well, the thing about this is that it just keeps getting worse for the American media. I mean, you think they can't go lower.
It's like, hold my beer.
It is every day there seems to be another low where there's no pretense of objectivity for most. There are a few reporters left, but not many. But there's very little pretense of even an attempt at objectivity, forget actual objectivity.
Correct. Well, listen, I spent a lot of time in the book, but both focusing on sort of the mainstream media and the fact that they've just written off the notion of objectivity totally. I mean, we've known for decades that they are left-leaning, but now they've just made it a point to be the marketing wing, the total defenders of the loony left and any of the insanity that they will push. It was a big factor in writing the book because I got to see that both on the campaign trail and, frankly, as the #2 target of the Mueller hoax, which, again, had a lot less credibility than any of these allegations, had a lot less actual proof, was a lot more shade involved, and yet they were able to run with that as though it was gospel. I mean, it definitely happened. It didn't happen. They just wanted it to have happened because that's their narrative, and that's what the DNC told them to run with, so they did it blindly.
Don, you said earlier today that there are very few people your dad can trust. And as the whole impeachment drama is swirling around and more of these deep state folks slither forward, has he seen that circle of trust shrink? And if so, does that say anything about his ability to hire people who are trustworthy?
I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think the reality is people within the swamp's going to swamp, right? He came in as an outsider. He didn't have the luxury of a Rolodex. You assume that people who volunteer to work for you in business, they're going to try to do their best. That's not necessarily the case in D.C. He does have good people around him. Obviously, Jared, Ivanka, Pompeo. He's got a good cabinet. He's got great people there. But the reality is so many of these people were not into Trump winning this presidency. They didn't want a disruptor.
It was worse than that, Don. It was worse. They were actively seeking to blunt his policies and to undermine his presidency. I mean, look, Ambassador Sondland said that Fiona Hill, of course, ambassador to Ukraine, holdover, that she couldn't stand your father. So here she's the ambassador.
That was known. I mean, there were articles. I tweeted about that for a year.
NSC official. Sorry, I always get her mixed up with the other.
But that was out there in the open, and I've tweeted about it. Hey, I've called out a lot of these officials that are there, at the pleasure of the president that do nothing to actually represent what he wants out there. And the reality is they're trying to cover themselves for a time in 5 years after Trump so that they can go back into their D.C. swamp world, pretend that that never happened. And so, they're really covering their butts and not dealing with this president properly, and they're not fighting for the people that they're supposed to be representing, the great citizens of this country. Because, man, I know that my father's putting up the numbers for them. I know that he's winning economically. I know he's doing things that are unprecedented, and he's doing it despite unprecedented incoming from the media, from the left, all of this nonsense. This impeachment inquiry is BS. Okay, it started on November 9th, 2016, the second he beat out the anointed one, Hillary Clinton, who was a joke candidate. But he won. The Washington Post ran their first article, the case for impeachment, 19 minutes after he was in office. 19 minutes. These people didn't want to give him a chance. And I see this around the country, Laura. I see people, even Democrats. You know what? I'm a Democrat, but it'd be sort of nice if they let him do his job. I mean, he renegotiated NAFTA. The USMCA is sitting on the desk of Nancy Pelosi for 9 months, and she won't vote on it because she knows that it will pass, and it would be a win for Trump, even though it's also a win for the American worker, and that's disgusting.
No, they don't want to give him any win. I mean, that's clear. So tonight in this Kentucky governor's race, the AP, I just said, is now saying the race is too close to call. It's maybe 4,000 votes separating the two candidates. But here is how your favorites over at CNN are reading the results.
Oh, boy.
Bevin closely aligned himself with Donald Trump, and Donald Trump went down there and made it very clear that he was behind him.
I think you cannot lose sight of Donald Trump going in there at the end. If he was not able to do that here, even for an unpopular Republican, that is going to be a question mark that hangs around his head.
Don, Bevin was the most unpopular governor in the country. It was once down 20 points, and now it's still too close to call. 49% versus 49%. He ran against a family that's legendary, the Bashir family, of course, in Kentucky. So what's your response to, well, look, it's predictable what they would say, but what's your response?
That we're so used to. I mean, any opportunity to try and take a swipe. I mean, they don't talk about the rest of the Republican ticket sweeping. They don't talk about the first African-American attorney general who happens to be a Republican, elected. They don't mention that, Trump helped propel those guys to those places. And I like Matt Bevin. He's been a friend of mine. He's a good guy, but he's picked a lot of battles. He's, teed off on a lot of people in Kentucky. That's not always popular. We understand how that works. But they won't give Trump the credit for that. I mean, but this is that same mainstream media that will run with anything. This is the same mainstream media, Laura, that tells me that al-Baghdadi is an austere religious scholar. He's not a rapist and a murderer and a guy that doused people in gasoline and lit them on fire. Because Trump killed him, and he was on Trump's wish list, the number one thing my father wanted to get done in terms of terrorism. The leader of ISIS is now an austere religious scholar. So that tells you the level of sickness that is the left-wing media filter that the regular American people see and they're fed up with. So, I'm not worried about that as a race. I'd love to see another governor. I think those are important. Like I said, I think he's done a good job, but Matt Bevin has picked some fights. So this has nothing to do with Trump. Again, they swept the rest of the ticket. They did great in Mississippi, et cetera, the other election today. The two really, I don't think, have that much to do with each other. But again, because you can utilize it as a platform to try to come up with keep knocking Trump, guys. See how it worked last time.
All right, Don, thanks so much. Congrats on the new book. Just out today. Everybody go out and get it.
We now have our hands on yet another document revealing a shocking level of coordination between the Obama State Department, Joe Biden, and Hunter Biden's very lucrative position with no experience at all at Burisma Holdings in Ukraine. Now, compliments of Solomon and a Freedom of Information Act request. Newly obtained memos from June of 2016 show the State Department officials, they actually prepped the new U.S. ambassador to Ukraine on how to handle questions about Burisma Holdings, and the millions they're paying, no experience Hunter Biden. Imagine if Donald Trump did this. Imagine that. And if you're wondering, by the way, this is the same ambassador to Ukraine who recently apparently testified that I had some role in the allegations that led to her resignation. In reality, despite the obsessive fake news reporting by the media mob, I don't know anything about this woman. Her name was barely mentioned but a few times on this program, just in passing, basically. And to this day, I haven't talked to anyone from Ukraine that I knew was from Ukraine. Nobody, ever. I certainly was not lobbying for her removal. But that did not stop the mass hysteria from the mob over yours truly. I think they like putting my face on TV because then they can trick viewers that never would watch them thinking it's Fox. I don't know. Take a look.
In the new transcript out tonight, this ambassador details how Sean Hannity's attacks on her and his alleged support of aspects of the Ukraine plot made it to the highest levels of the State Department.
The Secretary of State says that he will call Sean Hannity to try to find out what the deal is with this whisper campaign of slander that is being directed at her to get her removed.
The fact that at one point in time, Secretary Pompeo said he had to call Sean Hannity to find out what U.S. foreign policy was in one of these transcripts. So, I mean, the level of insanity and craziness and venality is just unmatched.
She basically is saying, hey, you got state media's out to get you right now. That's what that is. That's you know what happened with TASS. You know, in the Soviet Union in 1974, it's like state media's turned against you. The only way to get the guys in state media to back off is to offer a sacrifice to the gods.
He really is a dumb jackass. Just for the record, by the way, I never talked to the Secretary of State or anybody else from the State Department. All of what you saw, it shouldn't be surprising. Let's see, a hoax, more fake news, more conspiracy theories. None of that happened. By the way, Mr. Zucker, I hope your stenographer, Humpty Dumpty, is taking notes. But back to Solomon's big breaking news. Now found in the newly uncovered documents. Oh, by the way, this is real news. In 2016, a sample question and answer section actually is prepping this ambassador person, who I don't know who and much about, how to answer questions during her Senate confirmation hearing. One unredacted section reads, quote, question, do you have any comment on Hunter Biden, the vice president's son, serving on the board of Burisma, a major Ukrainian gas company? And they suggest the answer. For questions on Hunter Biden's role in Burisma, I would refer you to the Vice President Joe Biden's office. Remember, Biden has been vehemently denying ever talking to his son about his Ukrainian business deals, but in June of 2016, Sleepy Joe, Creepy Joe, Biden was the official point person for all matters related to Hunter Biden and Burisma Holdings. So, another flat-out lie, which even contradicts his own son, by the way, who said in an interview in the New Yorker, yeah, we did talk about it. And by the way, Biden said he and Hunter did nothing wrong. Nothing. We'll correct this in a second, but take a look.
No one's established that he did anything wrong or that I've done anything wrong. Period. I carried out the policy of the United States of America, our allies, the International Monetary Fund, the EU, in dealing with a corrupt prosecutor, period. Number one, I did not know he was on the board of that company. And in fact, no one's asserted on the board that it was illegal for him to be on the board or he did anything wrong.
But if you had known, would you have said don't, or would you have believed and said this is wrong?
No, it's not wrong. His words speak for themselves. He wished he had realized how thugs like Rudy Giuliani and his cronies and the cronies of the president would try to paint it.
We choose truth over facts.
Nothing wrong, no experience, Ukraine, gas, oil, energy, millions of dollars. No, nothing wrong, no money, no experience, China, private equities that we can see. Oh, looks like Joe 30330 needs some help with some pretty basic fundamental facts. And this is where the mob and the media is exposed as so corrupt. Some might want to remind sleepy, creepy, crazy Uncle Joe that his son Hunter, he wasn't selling his experience. He had zero experience in oil, gas, energy, or Ukraine, none. But he did have a direct line to his father, who was the Vice President of the United States, the second highest elected man in the United States in charge of, yes, policy in Ukraine. The only reason Hunter Biden was getting paid millions of dollars with zero experience for his so-called services, they wanted favor from the Bidens. As it turns out, we can report tonight, it looks like a pretty good investment for Burisma Holdings. Why? Because in February 2016, 3 weeks after Ukrainian authorities conducted a search warrant at the home of Hunter Biden's boss at Burisma Holdings, while a representative for the company was actively communicating with the Obama State Department. According to another newly unearthed email, courtesy of John Solomon and his Freedom of Information Act request, the Burisma rep was lobbying the Obama administration to end all corruption allegations against the company, arguing, quote, even 2 high-profile U.S. citizens are affiliated with the company, including Hunter Biden as a board member. Oh, that's why they paid Mr. Zero Experience, Hunter Biden, millions of dollars. And then 1 month later, yep, there he is, Joe Biden, Vice President of the United States, in a shakedown quid pro quo Joe. Fire that prosecutor in 6 hours, I'll give you $1 billion. You don't fire him, I won't give you $1 billion. Why on earth would a Vice President of the United States of America care about a prosecutor in Ukraine? The answer is obvious. His son was being investigated. Even the New York Times warned Biden his son was being investigated by that prosecutor. By the way, Democrats, we found your quid pro quo. Quid pro quo Joe. A shakedown with taxpayer dollars. And by the way, in spite of what Joe Biden just said, a serious potential violation of multiple laws. Our own Greg Jarrett laid it all out. Look at your screen. 15 U.S.C. 78. It is illegal for a U.S. person to coerce or influence through bribery $1 billion or extortion a foreign nation into taking action. Oh, yeah, they took action. Fire the prosecutor. That might financially benefit the person, his family, Hunter, or business. That's just the tip of the iceberg. 18 U.S.C. 201C. Whoever gives, offers $1 billion or promises anything of value to a public official to influence an official act, fire the prosecutor, is guilty of bribery. Wow, these are real laws. 18 U.S.C. 201B. Giving, offering, promising $1 billion, anything of value to a public official in exchange for an official act. Fire the prosecutor. 18 U.S.C. 1951, a threat to a foreign official in order to obtain, oh, we won't give you the $1 billion, in order to obtain official benefit affecting interstate or foreign commerce could constitute extortion. Biden leveraged $1 billion U.S. tax dollars. That's right, demanded a foreign prosecutor get fired. Fire him, you get the $1 billion. Quid, let me do this slowly for the mob and the media. Quid pro quo. Fire him, you get $1 billion. Don't fire him, you don't get $1 billion. And son of a bee, they fired the prosecutor who we now know Biden knew was investigating his own son. At the very same time, the company was evoking Hunter Biden's name all over the Obama State Department. What were they wanting? Political favors. Make these investigations go away. Is this how corruption, the swamp works, isn't it? When their media mob friends lie, they say no evidence of any wrongdoing. That's what the mob says, no evidence of any wrongdoing. What if this was Vice President Trump and Don Jr.? Are we really supposed to accept that this is business as usual? This is okay? Nothing here, nothing, there's no evidence, it's a conspiracy theory? Forget the law, forget the conflict of interest, forget that Hunter Biden got rich off the backs of U.S. taxpayers, and despite all these documents, all this evidence, all this stench and stink in the swamp of corruption all over Washington, D.C., not a single whistleblower came forward here. No outrage from the mob and the media. No, they're too busy making up excuses they never make for anybody with the last name Trump. Biden was totally protected, just like Hillary was totally protected. But when Trump upheld his sworn duty, read the transcript, enforcing the laws, election interference, and asking the newly elected president of Ukraine to cooperate with the investigation into 2016 election interference, and also later mentioning Vice President Biden's misconduct in the country, well, the swamp erupts. This is outrageous. I can't believe this has happened. And unlike Biden, there was no quid pro quo with Trump, no conflict of interest, no crimes of misconduct. They got the money, they didn't do anything. Read the transcript, totally available online. By the way, the president released the entire thing. What other people say and feel about the transcript? Oh, we are releasing what so-and-so thinks of the transcript. This is meaningless. Oh my God, somebody said they think it's bad. Meaningless. Read the transcript. The president was faithfully executing the laws of the land. I thought liberals cared about foreign election interference. Look at this corruption. Look at what we've now discovered. Burisma Holdings, they wanted favor from the Obama State Department. It existed on so many levels. And if releasing transcripts are the new norm, Republicans tonight need to begin demanding that the release of all transcripts of Vice President Biden with any Ukrainian official in this period of time. As a matter of fact, still for the whole time he was vice president. Release all the transcripts of the vice president, then Biden, and China, and any other country that was paying his zero-experience son a fortune, millions of dollars. No other Americans getting that deal. And let's release, while we're at it, all transcripts of then President Obama with Vladimir Putin and any other Russian leader after he had more flexibility after his re-election. And while we're at it, let's release any and all transcripts of then President Obama with any of the leaders of Iran. And the discussions that led up to the stupidity and the idiocy of giving the mullahs in Iran that chant death to America and Israel $150 billion in cash and other currency. Why would you ever do that? Republicans need to know and to demand those transcripts now be released. The media needs to ask Joe and Obama, hey, do you guys give us permission to look at those transcripts? I have a funny feeling they're not going to want those transcripts released. Now, by the way, Republicans must demand subpoenas while they're at it for very important witnesses. We're going to start with the non-whistleblower whistleblower. In other words, the hearsay whistleblower, the BFF of the compromised coward, the congenital liar Adam Schiff, and apparently his staff, also apparently friends of Biden. He wasn't on the call. His information was hearsay, third-hand material. Republicans must demand this non-whistleblower go under oath. What was the contact with Schiff's office? What was the relationship with Biden? Who was the person that gave you this third-hand information? And let's be clear, the whistleblower statute does not guarantee anonymity. It does protect against retribution, retaliation. They must also demand that Hunter and Joe Biden, that they be put under oath, that they be subpoenaed. Let's not forget the corrupt, compromised, congenital liar Adam Schiff. He is now a fact witness in this case. Let's put him under oath. Schiff, in fact, his office, what advice did they offer the whistleblower from the very beginning? He can't bring the whistleblower in because the whistleblower will be asked questions about him. This is a setup. It's all been conjured again by deep state, unelected bureaucrats that are just obsessed with impeaching Trump because they can't beat him. And carrying out the most corrupt person in Washington. This whole thing is being carried out by the biggest congenital liar. This is a clown show, a three-ring circus. That guy's been lying for 3 years. Here with more on this big breaking report, Fox News contributor, investigative reporter John Solomon. You know, this is so damning because I find this pretty amazing. Everyone's worried about a quid pro quo. Fire him, you get $1 billion. Don't fire him, you don't get $1 billion. Oh, and the New York Times warned him about his son being investigated by somebody you interviewed, a guy by the name of Shokin, the prosecutor. That's right. What? ABC interviewed him. They got the same story you did. So did the Washington Post interview him. Same story. One of these documents now, this takes it to a different level.
Yeah, it does. Listen, the only person that doesn't think that Burisma is about Joe Biden is Joe Biden. The State Department, in prepping its ambassador for her nomination hearing, was prepared for a question and directed people to Joe Biden. The ambassador of the United States for the Obama administration would not send the media or the senators to Joe Biden unless they thought he knew something about it. But let me wind you back to something else you just said, Sean. You talked about the need to release transcripts. I have done some reporting. In the period after Prosecutor Shokin raided the home of Hunter Biden's boss, the owner of Burisma, and before Burisma showed up, started lobbying the State Department a few weeks later in February, Joe Biden had 3 consecutive phone calls, 3, with the president of Ukraine. It's the only time in a 2-year period I can find 3 consecutive contacts between Biden and President Poroshenko. We should ask, did Burisma, did Shokin, did any of these issues come up in those calls? Joe Biden owes us an answer given the circumstances these documents now provide to the American public.
You believe that the media mob, if the names were changed, and it was Vice President Donald Trump Jr., and instead of Hunter, it was Don Jr. or Eric Jr. is going to join us tonight. Yeah. Do you think they'd be saying, oh, there's no evidence of any wrongdoing, this is a conspiracy theory?
Yeah, instead of 1 reporter on this, there would be 1,000 reporters on it.
1,000, 5,000.
Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. There's a willful blindness going on. But let me mention something that I think is very important. It comes out of the impeachment investigation. We now know a senior State Department official believed Joe Biden had a conflict of interest. He tried to raise this issue with Joe Biden in 2015, but Joe Biden's staff turned him away. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This isn't a Fox News fantasy. These are facts that the American media are willfully choosing not to pay attention to report, to learn more about. We have to get to the bottom of this, and I think the next round of documents, I'm doing another round of documents in December, I think we're going to learn a lot more, Sean.
Yeah, he's on tape bragging, isn't it? Quid pro quo Joe. It's all there. No experience, Hunter. That was the dumbest interview by a 49-year-old kid on GMA I've ever seen. You know anything? No. Why do they pay you? I don't know. Because your dad? Oh, yeah, probably that reason. We're going to get the FISA report maybe within like a week or 2. Keep hearing it's coming. It's driving me insane.